Hello, welcome to this channel. My name is Enoch. Today we will continue our series on Linux and we'll be looking at SSH. We'll be doing an exercise on how to log in into a remote host using a client machine, and let's get right to it. SSH stands for Secure Shell, and it's a protocol that is used to securely communicate with a remote machine or a remote system. It is used to securely log into remote system, execute commands over a network, transfer files between systems. It is widely used in Linux for secure communication between systems, and it uses a pair of keys, a public and a private key, to encrypt connection. And the reason for using SSH is is to avoid repetitive logging or when you're doing automation. So and if you're using SSH command, you can use it with some options. You can use it with -l, which is to add a user. You add a user and you give the IP address of the remote machine. Then -i, you can use that to specify the file, which is the private key, and you state the private key and you give the IP address of the remote machine with its SSH like this -i, with the path to the private key, the system user. This user is the system user at the IP address of the remote host. You can use -p2 with it like this. And let's go and check an example. I have an EC2 machine that is running here, a CentOS machine that is running here, and this is the IP address, and I want to connect with it using SSH, and I will copy this, and let me open my Git, my machine, and let's try it, and let me put it there. You can see. So the command is SSH-i, then the path to the private key. I've already downloaded the private key into my PC when I was creating the EC2 instance, the machine. So I'm going to give a path to the machine. I'm going to give a path to the file, to the private key, which is downloads / with the name I gave to the private key, and the system user of the private of the machine with the IP address. Usually I just have to give it like that, and it will work. But sometimes you just have to read the manual of the machine that you are using, to get how to log in. Sometimes to get specifically the system username. That's something that may be confusing at times. So at times I can go and just copy it and just use it to log in. So that's that. You do this like this, and you will have set your your networking on your machine to allow SSH on port 22. And if you run it like this, then you will be able to log in. You see, we're already in this machine. That's that. So that's that. Can I exit again? So that's how to use SSH to log in into a remote machine. Let's continue. So now, for us to use SSH to communicate between a client and a server, the client is the server machine, and another machine is the server. But before we get to that, let's look at how to set up SSH. SSH is usually pre-installed on most Linux distributions, but if it's not installed, you can install it. If it's a CentOS machine you are using, or an RPM, you can install it using your yum install with the package name. Then you can use your apt if you are using a Debian or Ubuntu machine to install it with the package name, and the daemon name is usually SSHD. If I go to this machine, and or let me use the other one, if we go to this machine and I say sudo systemctl status SSHD, you see that it's running. You can see it's active. So the daemon name is SSHD, and is actively running here. So you can press your key to get back your shell if it took your shell. So let me Let's continue from there. And so you can install SSH on your machine if it's not there, on Linux machine if it's not there, and you may have to start it and enable it so that it can start at boot time. This command is to enable the service so that it can start at boot time. If you are using a Debian machine, when you install it, it will start after installation or at boot time. But if you are using a CentOS or an RPM, you will have to start it yourself. So you have to run systemctl start. Systemctl is the command that manages the system. Is the command that is used to manage the service and processes in most modern Linux distributions nowadays. So but if systemctl is not the one your system use, just find out what your own Linux machine use and use it and start your service. So that's that. And now if we want to communicate between a client and a server, you want to access a remote machine, from a client machine. What I mean by client is just you have a Linux machine running and you have another Linux machine running elsewhere. It can be on the same system like I have it in this place, but you want to access the other machine, from the first machine. How do you do that? Or you want to do automation, how do you do that? First thing, you generate your SSH key by running your SSH-keygen to generate the public and private key. This is a private key, this is the public key. You see the public key will come with .pub like this, and you have to copy the public key into the remote machine using SSH. Now you run this SSH keygen on the client, on the machine where you want to use to access the remote machine. You run it, you have your public and private key, then you run your SSH-copy-ID on the client machine too with your -i, and you give the path to the public key, then you give the system username, then at the remote host IP address. Then once you run this, then this public key will now be located in your remote machine. In your remote machine, then you can now use SSH with the system username at the IP address of the remote host to now log in. Now let's look at that on an example. So these are two different machines. The one is an Ubuntu. This is an Ubuntu machine. If you run your cat etc-os-release, you will see that this is an Ubuntu machine. And if you run the same thing here, cat/etc/os-release, you will see that this is a CentOS machine. All right. If you check the host name of this machine, you will see that this one is CentOS-production. If you check this one, you will see, if you check the host name here, you see that this is Ubuntu-production. So those are two machines. Now, if we run SSH-, let me run this -la, and you see what is here. If you run ls.ssh, you will see that it's just the authorized key that is there, and -la, you will see that. What I want to run is ls.ssh ls-la.ssh. So the authorized key is there and it's mostly empty. You can see that. But if you go here in this client, this is the server, this is the remote machine that we want to log into. You also run your ls-la. You will see your .ssh there, which is also mostly contains the authorized key, which is mostly empty. If you check into your authorized keys, you will see that this is just what is there. If you run cat on it, you will see what is there. Let's run cat on it to see it, and you will see this is just what is there. Now let's go back to the client machine. Now let's run SSH-keygen here. Then it will ask us for the place where we want to, the file where we want to save this key. I'm not going to put any name, so it's going to save it in .ssh like that. Then it will also ask you to enter a passphrase. A passphrase is an added layer of security. You know, with this passphrase is what is going to use to encrypt these keys. So but if you are using this machine for automation, maybe in your CI/CD process, it is advisable not to give any passphrase. Just leave it like that. Press enter again, and your key will be there. If you run your ls-la, you will see that your key, if you run it with .ssh, you will see that your public and your private keys are now there. Now we now want to send this public key to this remote machine. So we run ssh-copy-id. Then I will give -i to give the file, and then I will give my .ssh with the public key. That's the public key. Then I'll give the system username, not the host name that you created with the machine, because this machine, now I could have stated an host name when I was creating the machine, which I did, but I'm not going to use the host name that I use. I'm going to use the system name, which is I'm going to use the system username, which is Vagrant, and you're going to give your @, then you're going to give the IP address of the remote host, 19 IP address, IP address show. So the IP address for this machine is 192.168.56.101. That's the IP address I set when I was creating it. But there's another IP address here that was given by the DHCP. I'm not going to use that. Just going to use this. So now I was saying earlier that you use the system username. Is the system username of the remote machine, not the client. The system username of the remote machine. All right, so let's now give the IP address 192.168.56.101. Then you will send it like this. It will ask you for the password. It will ask you, are you sure you want to continue connecting? So it will ask you for the password of the remote machine. You want to send, you're about to send a key. One key remains to be installed. So when I was creating the machines, I've created a password with them. So I'm going to use the password here. I'm going to give the password, and a key now has been added. You see number of keys that has been added, 1 key. Now if you come into the remote machine now and you run your cat.ssh-authorized keys, you will see that now is different. You will see that now is different. If you run it, you can see the key from the Ubuntu machine has been added. When we ran it earlier, we got this key. This was the key that we got that was in the authorized key. This was all that was in the authorized key. But now that we have sent the public key, now this is what is now in the authorized key. You can see this is now what is there from the SSH. It has been added. You know, that key has been added. So that's that. Now we have added the public key to the remote machine. Now we can log in from the client machine. You know, so I will just run SSH with the system username, with the remote machine system username, then with the IP address of the remote machine .56.101. So that's that, and we'll press enter to it, and you will see we are in the CentOS machine. If I run host name, you see we're in the CentOS machine. You can see that if I run exit, then I'll be back in the Ubuntu machine. You can see that. So it's pretty straightforward. I can send a file now from the Ubuntu machine to the CentOS machine. Now that it has been connected, let's try that out. I can use the SCP command. SCP is used for secure copy. You know, your normal CP command that you use in your Linux to copy, that we use in Linux to copy, but the SCP is a secure copy, that uses the same encryption process that SSH uses, and use it to copy whatever file you want to copy. So I need to let me create a file. Let's say echo, and echo, let's say we are learning DevOps close code, and let's send it to DevOps file. Press enter. Then if you run ls, you see that the DevOps file has been there. Now let's send this DevOps file over here. Let me check this place so that you can see that there's no file in this one. You can see there's no file in this one. Let me clear this place and let's run ls again. You can see there is no file here. And let's check the present working directory here, because we are going to need it. And let's bring it out here. And let's send this DevOps file over to the CentOS machine using SCP. Then we'll give the name of the file, which is DevOps file. Then I will give the system username of the remote machine with at 192.168.56.101. Then you give your colon. Then you give the path to the where you want the file to go in the remote machine. Then I will get /home/vagrant, and that's that. So look at that, SCP with the file name, the system, the remote host system, the remote machine system user at the IP address of the remote machine. With the path, you put your colon, then you give the absolute path, to the file where you want the particular file you're sending to go to in the remote machine, and you press enter and it will go. You can see that's a sign that it is gone. And let's go and check the remote machine using LX, and you can see the file is there. If I run cat DevOps, you can see the file is there. It's as simple and straightforward as that. So and there is a configuration file for SSH. Let me show you the configuration file. The configuration file is at etc/SSH. If you see, you will see SSH_config. You can bring it out. I can run it. I can say cat. Let me add sudo cat, then SSH/SSHD is SSH_config, and press enter, and you will see the file. So this is the configuration file, and if you make any changes in this configuration file, you have to reload the daemon and restart the SSHD and restart it. So that's that for today's video. Let me just run you through the slide that I created. You can pause it and look through the slide if you want. So this is how to generate the key, how to send the key using the public key, and how to log in, which is what we have seen. SSH configuration, I've shown you that on the machine, and the SCP command that you can use to copy securely. You use SCP, then you give the file name that you want to copy, then you give the system user at the IP address and the path to the destination. Don't forget to use your -r if you're copying a directory, so that you can copy it recursively. And that will be that for today. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.